Hey, what's going on, guys? So I've had a ton of requests to do something with the Stripe API. And if you don't know what Stripe is, it is a payment gateway or a payment system that allows you to accept credit cards on your website or your application. And it's a really nice API. There's a lot of different ways you can implement it. You can make it so it's all on the server like we're doing with Node and Express, or you can build an API with Node or Python or whatever, and you can, send requests from vanilla JavaScript or from React or Angular. You can basically do whatever you want and use whatever platform you want. And if you're using something like Magento or some pre-made e-commerce platform, then it's really easy to implement. You just basically plug in your API key. So it's a really nice system to use. What we're going to be doing, like I said, is building a Node and Express application, and it's going to be an ebook sales site. Okay, so this is what we'll be building. Not only will we'll be building it, but we're going to deploy it to Heroku. All right, so we're going to make it live on the internet. And basically, if I push this button here to purchase for $25, it's going to ask us for a credit card number, all that stuff. I'm going to show you how we can test this. You can see this little yellow button up here. We're in test mode. We'll talk about how to get out of test mode. We'll talk about how to view your customers and your payments in your back end. This is the Stripe back end here. I really don't care if you guys see it. I don't use it. I don't use this account, at least. But that's what we'll be doing. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and let's get started. Coding Dojo is a programming school that turns beginners into developers in only 14 weeks. Over 90% of their grads land jobs within 3 months of graduating, often making over $70K per year. To learn more, visit codingdojo.com or click the link in the description below. Alright guys, so before we actually get started coding, I figured we'd actually look at the application and see how it works, see how things get added to Stripe and all that. So we're not deployed, we're not on Heroku now. I'm on my local host, but that doesn't matter, we can still use it. So what we'll do here is click the purchase button. We get the little pop-up here. It's going to ask for an email, so I'm just going to type in, let's say Brad at, I'm just going to say testing2.com. All right, and then we can put in a card number. Now, if I just put in any card number, obviously this isn't a working credit card, and we'll just put in any expiration, we'll say 19, any CVC, and then our zip code, and then we try to pay. You'll see that it's not going to let us pay. It does the actual checking right here. Now, what's nice about the Stripe API is they make testing very, very easy. They start you out in test mode, and they actually give you a bunch of card numbers that you can use to test. This is the one that I've been using. It's just all 4 twos. But if I click on this link here, you'll see that there's different kinds of cards. There's MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and all that. The documentation, in my opinion, is really nice for Stripe. There's a lot to it, but there's a lot to the system. So we're going to go ahead and use that valid testing card and see what happens. So we're going to put just all 4 twos, and then we'll go ahead. And before I actually click pay, I just want to show you that if you want it to remember you, you can click that and you can actually enter your number here, and it'll save it so that when you go and you repurchase something using the same email address, you won't have to put your card number in again. It'll just text you a code, and then you can put that code in, which is really nice. But I'm going to uncheck that, and we're just going to click pay. All right, now you see the little green check, and I made it so that we get redirected to a success page once we pay, and it says your ebook should be emailed to you within 1 business day. And you change this up and put a download button, just make sure the page is protected, or do whatever you'd like. I'm just giving you a basic implementation of Stripe. All right, now let's go to our dashboard. So this is my Stripe dashboard. Obviously, you need to sign up for a Stripe account. It's free. And then I'm going to reload, and we're going to click on, actually you can see right here, gross volume $25. So let's go and click on payments, and you'll see we have a payment for the web development ebook. We get a little ID number here, and then the customer is Brad at testing2.com. All right, so it'll show all your sales here. Now, if we click on customers, you'll see that the customer actually gets saved as well. Now, you can have it charged without saving the customer, but the way that we implemented it, the way that we wrote our code and interacted with the API, made it so that it saves the customer as well. Now there's a lot more you can do. You can create subscriptions for recurring charges. You can add your own products through the Stripe API, and you can actually, create code that's going to purchase those products. There's a lot more you can do, and I do plan on putting out more Stripe videos because I do really like the system. I think it's really easy to work with compared to something like Authorize.net, which I've used before, and even just signing up for Authorize.net is a friggin' nightmare, and their API is really difficult to work with. Now, if we go down to, what should I show you first? If you want this to go live, okay, so if you're all set and you want to get out of test mode, you can go to Payments, Settings, and then you can just go right here where it says Cards, it says Test Mode, just click Activate, and you'll have to do like a little application here in order to really accept credit cards. You want to put what you want for your statement, for your business name. You have to put in your social security number, all that stuff, and you'll have to put your bank details because it needs somewhere for the money to go. All right, and then you just activate your account. So by default you will be in test mode, and then when you're ready you just want to go through this little process, which isn't bad at all compared to, like I said, something like Authorize.net. Now once you're done and you want to get rid of this test data, what you can do is go to Business Settings and go to Data, and right here there's an option that says Delete All Test Data. So if I click that, it's gonna show us all the different test data. I have two charges, one customer. I'm gonna click Delete Now. It's gonna ask for your password. Well, usually it asks for a password. I don't know why it didn't, but it should be deleted now. So if we go to Payments, you'll see that there's nothing there. If I go to Customers, nothing there. All right, so the back end of the Stripe API is pretty easy to use. Now, two things you're going to need are your publishable key, which is like your public key, and then your secret key. And you can get those just by going to API. All right, so right here you can see we have a publishable key, which is this, and then secret key. If I click reveal, I don't care if you guys see this, I'm going to change it anyways. This is your secret key. So the public key can go right in the form, and then the secret key resides on the server. Now when we deploy to Heroku, we're actually going to set some environment variables and put these inside of those so that we don't have to have them right inside the file on our server, okay, when it's live. So once you go live, these keys should change, and they'll no longer have the test in it. They won't be test keys anymore, and then you just need to update your keys in your application. So I think that's everything. I'm just trying to get everything out of the way before we actually start writing code so you know exactly what's going on. All right, so let's go ahead and start to write some code. Now I'm going to go ahead and just go into VS Code, and I have an empty folder called Ebook Seller. Okay, so that's the folder I'm using. Just create a folder wherever you want on your machine. And from here we want to do the normal stuff that we would do with a Node application. We want to run npm init. Then we want to install our dependencies. So I'm going to open the integrated terminal for VS Code. Of course, you can use whatever you'd like. Notice that I'm also using Git Bash inside here. If you guys want to get Git Bash on Windows, you can go to git-scm.com, and then if you want to integrate it with VS Code, you can simply go to Preferences, Settings, and you can just add this right here. All right, so this terminal integrated shell Windows, and just point to the Git Bash program. So let's close that up. Now what we're going to do is just run npm init. And I'm sorry if that was a lot of explanation. I just really want to try to explain how everything works rather than just jumping into the code. So let's go ahead and go through this. Ebook seller, that's fine. Version, description, we'll say app to sell ebook. And entry point, I like to use app.js, and then we'll just enter through the rest. All right, so now we have our package.json. Should look like something like this. I have MIT for my default. I also have my name for the default. Now what we're going to do is install our dependency. So let's clear this out, and there's a few things we're going to need. So let's say npm install -- save, and we're going to need Express, we're going to need Stripe, we're going to need Express dash handlebars, that's what we're going to use for our template engine, and then we're going to need body parser. Okay, body parser is used so that we can actually get form data on the server. All right, and I think that's it. That should be it. Let me just double check. Yeah, that should be it. Let's go ahead and run that. All right, and while that's going on, we'll go ahead and create our app.js file. All right, so this is basically our entry point. I'm going to create a start script for this. So in our package.json file, let's replace this test under scripts as start, and then we want to start with node app, all right, or node app.js. So we'll go ahead and save that. All right, so in our app.js, we're going to just pretty much set up a standard Express server. We're going to bring it in. Let's say const express equals require express. Then what we want to do is bring in Stripe, but before we do that, I'm going to pull up the documentation for the Stripe module. So I'm just going to search for npm Stripe. Okay, now when we bring it in, okay, so when we require it, we need to then put a set of parentheses after it with the secret key. Now, if we look at our dashboard, remember we have a publishable key, which is okay if people see that, and then the secret key, which goes on the server, which no one should see. Now, when we get ready to deploy, I want to have two separate key files, one for dev, which will just put the keys right in the file, and then one for our production server, where we're going to use environment variables from Heroku. Okay, but we're going to get into that later. For now, we're just going to take our secret key and just put it right in. So let's go back to VS Code, and let's bring in Stripe. Set that to require Stripe, and then put a set of parentheses after that, and we're just going to put in our secret key. Okay, yours will obviously be different. And what's nice is when you're looking through the documentation here, it'll actually replace all of the stuff here. Any code examples will have your actual public key or your secret key. All right, if you can see that this one ends in LA, and if we look at mine, it ends in LA. So as long as you're logged in, the API documentation will actually show your key and exactly what you should put in. You can see it also has my business name and everything, which is kind of cool. I really like the documentation for Stripe. All right, so let's get back to work here. We'll go back to Visual Studio. Let's bring in the rest of our stuff. So we're going to need body parser. So we'll say require, and that'll be body dash parser. And we want to bring in handlebars. So this is going to be exp HBS. We're going to set that to require express dash handlebars. All right. So now that we've brought everything in, let's initialize our application with, we'll say const app equals express. Okay, just standard Express stuff. Let's go ahead. I just want to get the server actually up and running. So let's create a port. We'll say const port equals. Now we're going to be deploying to Heroku, so we need to use process.env.port or port 5000 if we're local. All right, because basically Heroku is going to choose the port from here, but since we're, when we're working locally, we want it to be port 5000. All right, then we're going to just say app.listen. This will start our server. We're going to listen on whatever port is in that variable, and then we'll put an arrow function here as our callback, and we'll just console.log. We'll put in some backticks here so we can use a template string, and we'll say server started on port, and then we can just put in a variable like this, port. So let's save this, and since we put this start script right here, we should be able to just run this with npm start. All right, started on 5,000. Let's go to localhost port 5,000, and we're going to cannot get slash. Okay, and you guys that have worked with Node and Express should know that this is because we don't have an index route. We don't have any routes, so we're getting that. But the server is in fact running. So let's go back. And before we move any further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this with Control-C. And I don't want to have to keep restarting the server every time we make changes and we want to check it. So what I'm going to do is install something called NodeMon. And what that does is it'll continuously watch our application. I know a lot of you guys know this already, but it'll make it so that we don't have to keep restarting the server. And we want to install this globally, so we're going to do npm install -g for global NodeMon. All right, I already have it installed, so mine might go a little quicker. All right, so once we do that, we can just say NodeMon and it'll start it up for us. All right, so let's go ahead and add a route here. Now our index route is going to be basically just the only page we have. We're going to have the index page and then the success page. So let's go ahead and put that right here. We'll say index route. We're going to say app.get. It's going to be a get request to slash. Okay, we'll put an arrow function here, and that'll have request and response. And then all we want to do here is render a template. So to do that, we need to just do res.render and then the template name, which will be index. All right, let me make this a little smaller here. Now, before this can actually work and we can render a view, a handlebars view, we need to add some middleware. And handlebars isn't the only thing we need to add middleware for. We need to add it for body parser. We also need to let Express know that we want to use a certain folder for static assets like images, because we are going to use two images. We're going to have one for the actual ebook. We're going to also have one in the checkout box right here. I'm going to replace this image with my logo, and of course you guys can use whatever you'd like. All right, so let's go back to Visual Studio Code and let's add this stuff. So let's say handlebars middleware. So this is basically just two lines. We're going to say app.engine. I'm going to pass in handlebars, and this is all in the documentation for Express handlebars if you want to check that out. And then we want to do expHBS parentheses. Okay, so this expHBS comes from right here. And then we want to pass in a configuration object. And the only thing that I want to put here is default layout. And we're going to set that to main. So basically we're saying that the layout that wraps around all of our views should be called main.handlebars. And then under that we just want to say app.set. We want to pass in some single quotes and just say view space engine. And we're setting the view engine to handlebars. So that's the required middleware. Now for body parser, we want to say app.use, and in here we'll say body parser.json and then a set of parentheses, and then we want to do app.use body parser dot URL encoded, and we want to pass in an object, so we want to pass in some curly braces, and we just want to say extended false. All right, once you do this enough, you won't have to look up the documentation anymore. You'll just remember it. All right, and then we want to set the static folder because we need a place to put our images and any extra style sheets if you want, anything like that. So for that, let's do app.use, and inside here we're going to say express.static. Static, open some parentheses, and we're going to put in some backticks here so we can use a template string, and then we're going to put a variable. So to use variables in template strings, you use money sign and then curly braces. All right, we're just going to put double underscore dir name, so the current directory. We're going to go outside of that curly brace and do slash public. All right, you'll often see this done with the path module as well, but I don't feel like bringing the path module in. So basically we're just saying that the folder that's named public is going to be set as the static folder where we can put our images and stuff. All right, so let's save that. Let's go over here and create a public folder. And let's create a folder inside public called img. And just to do it before I forget, I'm just going to bring the images in. And you can get these in the link in the description. So this is our application. I'm going to go in public image, and I'm going to bring in both of these images. Let's see, paste these in. So one is the ebook and one is the replacement for the checkout box. Now make sure that whatever you want to use for the checkout box, you call it marketplace.png. That's what it's going to look for. All right. So now we can start to take care of our views. So let's create a folder called views. Now remember, we said the default layout is going to be called main. So inside views, we're going to create a folder called layouts. All right, and then we're going to set a new file called main.handlebars. And this is going to wrap around all of our other views. So let's put our basic HTML head and body tags in here. Inside the title, I'm just going to say web development ebook. And wherever we want the views to output, we want to put in triple curly braces and then body. All right, this will output whatever view we're rendering, such as index. So let's save. Now in our app.js, for our home route, we're rendering an index view, so we need to create that. So not inside layouts, but inside views, we want to create a file called index.handlebars. And for now, let's just say hello. Oops. We'll say hello index. And save. Let's go back and reload, and we get hello index. So the home page or the index page, whatever you want to call it, is now loading the index view. All right, so let's see what's next. Let's go ahead and add the nav bar to our main handlebars. Actually, first of all, we need to bring in Bootstrap. So I'm going to just bring in the CDN. So I'll go to getbootstrap.com. We're using Bootstrap 4 beta at this time. We're going to grab this link. This is just the CSS. I'm not going to bother bringing in the JavaScript and all this jQuery and stuff because we're not using any of that. We don't need that. So just the CSS part. Excuse me. And we're going to paste it in right here. And let's go ahead and add the nav bar. I'm going to put it right above the body right here, right above this. And I'm going to paste this in just so I don't have to type it out. Let's see. And it's really easy because there's no links or anything. So basically we just want a nav tag with some classes. We have navbar expand MD, navbar dark, BG dark, and then PY3. This PY3 is a padding class. If you guys took my Bootstrap 4 Udemy course, you know all about this. If not, basically PY just means padding for the top and bottom, and then 3 is a multiplier. This can be either 1 through 5. All right, so it's going to add some padding to the top and bottom. Then we just have a container, and then an A tag with the class of navbar brand, and then an H3 with, I put Traversy Media, but of course you can put whatever you want. All right, let's also wrap a container around the body. Okay, that way we don't have to do it in every single view, even though we only have 2 views, but it's good just in case you want to add more views later. All right, so we'll save that, and then we should be all set for the layout. So if we go back to our index page and reload, it should look like this. All right. Oh, one more thing. I want to make the background blue, so I'm just going to add a class to the body called BG primary. All right. Actually, we might as well add text white as well. Class called text white. And there we go. So now we're going to work on the index page. So we're going to go to our index handlebars. Now try to bear with me. There's quite a bit of Bootstrap markup here. I don't like to copy and paste. You guys know that. I like to do it from scratch. Even though this is a Stripe tutorial, I like to start it from scratch. I mean, I could have done all this already, but what about the people that don't know, you know, how to implement handlebars or anything like that? So I'm always trying to think of everyone, not just the people that, you know, just want to learn about Stripe. So this is going to have a class of py2, so padding on the top and bottom. And yeah, that's the only class we need for this. And then we're going to have a row because we're going to use the grid. We're going to have two 6-column divs. So we're going to have a class of call-md, call-md-6. And let's center everything. So we'll also have a class of text-center. By the way, this syntax that I'm using is because I'm using Emmet. Emmet comes pre-installed with VS Code. If you're using Atom or Sublime Text or something, you want to install it as a plugin. All right, so we can use a syntax like this and click Tab, and it'll turn it into classes. All right, so let's see. Inside here, we're going to have an H1. I'm going to give this H1 a class of display-3, which is a Bootstrap 4 class. We're going to do MT5. Actually, let's do MT3, which is margin top 3. And then let's do PT-5, which is padding top 5. All right, and then in the H1, we're going to say web development ebook. And let's see, under the H1, we're just going to put a paragraph with the class of lead, which will make the text a little bigger. And we'll say learn web development front to back. All right, let's save it. Okay, so that's what it should look like. So before we add the pay button, I just want to add the image over here. So let's see. We need our second 6-column div. So under this class, this callMD6, we're going to create another one called callMD6. And we're going to put in our image. And the source is going to go to /img/book.png. All right, and then we're just going to give this, let's give this a class of img-fluid, which is a Bootstrap 4 class. Let's save it, reload, and there we go. All right, so now we have the markup stuff out of the way, the uninteresting stuff. Now we're going to get into Stripe. So if we go and we look at checkout, okay, so checkout is basically this here. This is called checkout. And this tells us how to integrate it. So basically we need to have a form. It's going to have an action that's going to go to whatever route we're submitting it to. It's going to be a post request. So we want this to go to /charge on our Express site or our Express backend. And then we need to include this script tag with all of this stuff in it, okay, which I'm going to change some of it up. But let's grab this form. All right, now if you're not logged in to Stripe and you're not looking at this documentation, that's fine. You can just manually type it in. But I'm going to go back to VS Code, and we're going to go under the paragraph here, right? Yeah, under the paragraph, and we're going to paste this in. All right, so this form right here, the action is going to go to /charge. All right, that's where we want this to go. And then we want to keep the source, this script here. This is the checkout script, checkout.js. Okay, we have a class of Stripe button. The data key should be your public key. Okay, so in your Stripe dashboard, whatever this is right here, your publishable key, that's what you want there. The data amount is going to be the amount that you want to charge them, which in this case is going to be 2500. So that's going to be $25. Okay. Data name for this we're going to call Web Development Ebook. This is basically the product name. All right, in the description, this says widget by default. I'm going to change this to ebook written by Brad Traversy, and you can put whatever you want here. Now this right here, you can see this is the data image. So this is this image right here. Where is it? Right here. Now if you want to change it, like I said, it has to be called marketplace.png. So if you go and do what we did earlier and you put the marketplace PNG file into your image folder, then we can just change this right here to /img/marketplace PNG. All right, and then that should be good. So let's save this and let's go back to our application and reload. And we're going to get this pay with card. Let's click it and there we go. All right. So if we submit this, it's not going to do anything because it's not, we have nothing in that charge route. In fact, we can go ahead and try it. We'll say test at something.com, card number. All right, now since I've used this email address before, my browser knows that I've used it. It's asking if I want to get sent the code so I don't have to put my card in again. But of course, I'm not going to do that. So let's do 42. Actually, before we do that, let's try something that doesn't work. All right, so you can see it's not going to work. It's actually checking it. Now, if we put in one that does work and pay, this will check off and it's going to redirect to charge and nothing happens. I mean, if we go to our dashboard and we go to payments, we're not going to see anything because we don't have a back end. Okay, all we've done is the front end form at this point. So we're just going to get this error. All right, now before we work on the back end, I want to show you how we can customize this. Now it took me a while to figure out how to customize this, but still be able to use it in the way that we are, without having to make an AJAX request or anything like that, to still be able to use the action right here. So the solution was to hide the default Stripe button and then add our own. So we're going to go under this script right here and put another script. Okay, and we're going to say hide default Stripe button. Now you don't have to do this. If this button is fine for you, this pay with card, then just leave it. But if you want to add your own, this is how you can do it. So let's see, we're going to do document. I'm going to say document.get elements by class name. And then in here we want to get stripe dash button dash el. All right, we want to get the first one. So let's say bracket 0. And then we're going to set dot style dot display equal to none. All right, so that's going to hide the initial button. If we save this and we reload, the button goes away. All right, now to add our own, all we have to do is go under the script tag we just created and just put in a button. We're going to give it the type of submit. Okay, so button type submit. Let's give it our bootstrap classes. So I'm going to say btn dash, what did I do? Outline dash dark. But I also did text white. And let's make it bigger. So we'll say btn dash lg. And for the text, we'll say purchase for $25. And save, reload, and there we go. So now if I click that, we get our pop-up. All right, so that's the simplest way that I could find to replace the button and still use the checkout module. All right, so I think that's it for this side of it. Now what we want to do is work on the charge route. Okay, remember when we submit it, it makes a post request to /charge. So let's go ahead and go back to our app.js. And we'll say charge route. So it's going to be app.post /charge. Okay, it's going to take a request and response. And now what do we want to do here? So here we want to first of all create the amount. We'll say const amount, and we're going to set that to 2,500, which is $25. And then we want to do two things. We want to create the customer, and then we want to charge the customer. And if we look at the documentation here for the Stripe package, it shows us right here, we want to do stripe.customers.create, and then it gives us, it sends back a promise. So we want to do .then it'll give us the customer, and then we can call stripe.charges.create, and then we can charge the customer. So ours is going to look a little different than this, but that's the basic idea. But before we do that, what I want to do is show you what comes in from that form. So let's say console.log, and we're going to log request.body. That's how we get form data with the body parser. And then let's just do res.send. Doesn't really matter what we put here, just to have it do something. So let's save that, and then we'll submit the form with the credit card, and we'll see what this gives us, and that it'll show it down here. All right, so let's go back, and we'll just put in, I don't know, Brad at test3.com. Put in let's put in our good credit card. Whoops. Okay. Expiration, this stuff doesn't matter. As long as you use that card number, this stuff doesn't matter. And we'll pay. We're just going to get, it's just going to res.send test, but let's look at the console. And then this is what it gives us. Stripe token. Okay, token, this is basically a reference to the actual card. You can see that the Stripe token type is card, and then it gives us the email. Okay, and that's what we can use to create our customer. So I just wanted you to know what that form actually sends. It's this object with these three things. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that now. And let's proceed to say stripe.customers.create. We want to pass in a set of curly braces here. And we want the email. We can get that with request.body.stripe email. All right, just like it says down here, Stripe email. Okay, this is request.body. We want the specific Stripe email value. So that's what we're putting right here. All right, then we also want to put in source, which is going to be the Stripe token. So request.body.stripe token, okay, which is this here. So that'll create the customer, and then what that does is it gives us back a promise, so we can say .then, and then in here we'll put in customer, because it gives us a customer back, and we'll set that to let's set it to stripe dot, what is it, charges, stripe.charges.create. All right, and then inside here we're going to pass in an object. Okay, it should look like that. I believe that's right. And then we want the amount, which up here we defined. So I'm going to use ES6 instead of doing amount, since it's the same thing. We can just do amount once. Then we want the description of the product, which is web development ebook. We want the currency that is being used, and that's going to be USD. We want the customer. Remember, this promise that this gave us back gives us a customer object, and we want to set this to customer.id. Okay, that object has an ID. All right, then we're going to do one more .then, and for this we're going to say charge, and then we just want to basically render the success page. So we'll say res.render success, and that's it. That's going to do everything. That's going to add the customer, and that's going to charge the customer. So pretty simple block of code, at least for what it does. So now what we want to do is create the success page that it's going to redirect us to, or not redirect, but render. So let's go into views, create a new file called success.handlebars. Oh, forgot the H there. Alright, so in here we're going to put a section, and let's give this a class of py-5. Actually, it should be good. And then let's do an h1. We'll give it a class of display-3. And in this h1, we're just going to say thank you. And then we'll put a paragraph with the class of lead. And we'll say your ebook should be emailed to you within 1 business day. And you can handle this however you'd like. And then I'm just going to put a go back button or a go home button. So href to slash. Let's give it a class of btn and btn dark. btn lg, and in here we'll say go back home. Alright, so yeah, that should be good. Let's save. And if you want to just check this page out just to make sure, but before you actually go and do a transaction, you could just create a simple GET request. So let's say /success, and we'll load up the success view. So now if we go to /success, there it is. All right, I don't want to keep that as a route though. I just wanted to see what it looked like, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so we should be all set, guys. Now there's some other stuff we need to do before we deploy, but let's go ahead and test it out. Let's see if we actually add the payment and the customer to my Stripe account. All right, and just so you can see, right now I have no payments, I have no customers, so let's try it out. All right, so we want to go back to our index, purchase, let's say Brad at, I don't know, hello.com, card number, and pay, check. Hopefully it went through and then it redirected us. Let's go to our Stripe dashboard. Let's reload payments. And there it is, web development ebook. Okay, there's a little invoice thing. It shows you, it even shows you the route down here that it worked with. Brad at hello was charged $25. So if we go to customers, there he is, Brad at hello. So we have a working Stripe website. Now, if you're not interested in deployment, then that's it. That's all you need. But if you want to keep going and you want to actually deploy to Heroku, then let's change some things up. All right, so basically all we have to change in our application is the way that we have our keys. Okay, I don't want to just put the key right in the file like this. I don't even want to put it in like this, our publishable key. So we're going to create a new folder called config. Okay, and if you guys took my Node.js dev to deployment course, this is going to be very similar to what we did with our 2 applications there. We're going to create a new file called keys.js. Okay, we're going to create another file in there called keys_dev.js. And then finally, we're going to have another file called keys_prod.js. So basically, dev is going to be just our development keys, and we don't want to push that to the server. The production keys is what we want to push to the server. Now, in the regular keys.js, we're going to check to see if we're actually in a development environment or not, or in a production environment. If we are, then we're going to load keys.prod. If we're not, we're going to load keys.dev. So let's first go to keys.dev. All right, and we're going to just say module.exports. So we're just exporting an object, and this object is going to have Stripe publishable key. Okay, and the value for that is going to be our publishable key, which is, I mean, we could get it in our dashboard. So if you go to API, you'll see your keys here. So this is the publishable one. I'm going to grab that, put that in there. Remember, this is the KeysDev file. The next one will be Stripe secret key. Excuse me, secret key, and we're going to set that to our secret key, which is this. Okay, so we'll put that in right there and save. Now what I'm going to do is copy this and now go to the keys prod.js and paste that in. Now instead of just putting these directly in, these keys directly in here, we're going to replace this with an environment variable that we're going to add to Heroku. And for this we can say process.env dot, and we're going to call it stripe underscore publishable underscore key. Okay, and then for this one here we're going to say process.env dot stripe underscore secret underscore key. Okay, and you don't have to do all this, but it's just good practice. It makes it much more secure rather than just having your keys right on in your files like that. But that should do it. Let's save this, and then we can close up both keys prod and KeysDev. And now we want to go into KeysGIS, and basically we just want to test to see what environment we're in. So we can say if process.env.node_env, so if the node environment is equal to production, basically if we're in Heroku, it's going to be equal to production. Then we want to export. We'll say module.exports equals, and then we want to just require /keys_prod. All right, else if we're in development or anything else, we want to export the dev keys. All right, keys_dev. So if we're on our local machine, then that's what we're going to be using. All right, if we're on the server, then it's going to use those variables. So let's save this. All right, now what we want to do, we can close it up. Let's close up everything except for app.js. And now we want to bring in the keys file, okay? And we're going to replace this hard-coded secret key right here. So you want to make sure that you bring in the keys file above the stripe. So we'll say const keys equals require, and it's inside the config file /keys. All right, and then we're going to replace this with keys dot stripe secret key, just like that. Now for the publishable key, remember that's in the index, right? That's in the index route, so we're going to pass that in right here. All right, we'll pass it in as a value, so we'll say stripe publishable key, set it to keys dot stripe publishable key. Save it, and then we'll go to our index.handlebars and replace the hard-coded value right here with some double curly braces, and it's going to be stripe publishable, spell that right, publishable key, and save. All right, so we should be good. Now the purpose of separating these is so that we don't have to have the dev keys on the server. So when we use Heroku, the way that we push to Heroku is with Git, okay, the Git version control system. So we want to create a file here inside the root. So we'll say new file, and we want to call it .gitignore. .gitignore, sorry. And we just want to put in here that we want to ignore the keys_dev.js file. Okay, any file with that name should be ignored. All right, we also want to ignore the node modules folder. Okay, we don't want to push that to Heroku either. So both of these should be in the git.gitignore. All right, now what we want to do is initialize this as a repository, a Git repository. So let's go ahead and get out of this, clear it out, and we'll say git init. That'll initialize it as a Git repository. Then we're going to do git add dot. So this is adding everything. We're adding all files. Then we're going to commit. So git commit -am, and then in here we just want to put just a comment. So I'm just going to say initial commit. All right, and that commits everything to the local repository. Now what we need to do is we need to install the Heroku CLI so that we can actually push this to Heroku. All right, so we're going to go to, let's just search for Heroku CLI. And if you already have it installed, that's fine. But for those of you that don't, you just want to click on your platform. I'm on Windows, and Windows has an installer that I can download. So I'm going to grab the 64-bit installer, which I already have, but that's fine. All right, if you're on Mac OS, you can grab that installer. If you're on Ubuntu, you can go ahead and run this command. But I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And make sure you have both of these checked. We'll click Next, Install. That should install real quick. All right, so that's all set. So I'm going to click Close. Now, for some reason, the command Heroku does not work in Git Bash for me ever. If I say Heroku, actually, let's try. I mean, the first command we have to run is Heroku login. So I'm going to try that. Wow, is it going to work? Usually doesn't. No? Oh, it is. Oh. All right. Well, usually it doesn't. If it does not work in Git Bash and you're on Windows, just go ahead and open up the standard, Windows command line and run it as administrator, and then navigate to your application. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here with Traversy Media at Gmail and password. All right, so now I'm logged in. So now what I want to do is I want to create an application. Make sure you're in your apps folder. So we want to say Heroku create. Okay, so it created it. It called it Peaceful Island. It'll give it some weird friggin' name. And then if we go to the Heroku dashboard and reload, you'll see this Peaceful Island. This is our application. Now we still have to add this as a repository. So let's click on that and let's go to settings. I'm sorry, not settings, deploy. And down here, you'll see this command right here, Heroku Git Remote, and then the name of your app. So you just want to grab that, go back to the command line. I'm just going to clear this out, and I'm going to paste that in. And that's basically going to add it as a repository. So now we can push to it. Now we already have everything in our local Git repository because remember we did the git add, the git commit. If I do git status right now, you'll see that there's nothing to commit. Everything is already in there. So all we have to do now is say git commit, I'm sorry, not commit, git push Heroku master. I'm going to push to the Heroku master branch. And that should upload everything to Heroku. And hopefully it works. All right, everything looks okay. So now you can either go to your dashboard and go to Open App, or you should be able to just type in your terminal. You should be able to say Heroku open, and it'll open it in the browser. Now I'm getting an application error, of course. So what you want to do now, if this is happening to you, if not, then that's great. If it is, then you just want to say Heroku logs. And let's see what's going on here. Let's see. Cannot find module KeysDev. Wait a second. You shouldn't be able to find module KeysDev. What did I do here? I forgot an E right here. Since I forgot that E, it was actually looking for this file, which isn't there because we put it in the Gitignore. It didn't get pushed to Heroku. So let's fix that and save. And then what we'll have to do is let me clear this out. We'll have to say git add all, git commit. And this is what you do every time you want to, you change something and you want to commit again. So we'll say fixed keys file. All right, and then we'll say git push Heroku master. All right, hopefully this works. All right, so let's try it again. I'll actually just go over here and reload. And there we go. And you can see we're now live on the internet. So now we want to actually test this out. What I'm going to do first, though, is just delete all my test data from Stripe. You can see we still have this in here. So I'm going to go to Business Settings, Data, and delete all test data. Okay, so now if we go back to Payments, you'll see there's no payments. If we go to Customers, there's no customers. So let's try it from our remote application. Purchase, email, let's do, I don't know, we'll say harry@gmail.com. Card number, we'll use our good one, 0918. Pay. You did not set a valid publishable key. Oh, we didn't add our environment variables for Heroku. So what happened is it doesn't know what the hell this is here or this. So to do this, we need to go back to our dashboard in Heroku and go to Settings, go to Reveal Config Vars, and we need to add those. So Stripe publishable underscore key value is going to be our publishable key, which we can get right here. Okay, add, and then Stripe underscore secret key that. All right, so we'll add that, and then that should be good. So now it should know what we're talking about. So let's go back to our remote application, which is right here. Let's just reload it. Let's try it again. Whoop. See, I used an email address I already used, so it's asking if we want to use the phone thing, but I don't want to. All right, so it redirected us to our success page on our remote site. Now let's go to the dashboard, go to payments and reload. And there we go, Harry at Gmail. If we go to customers, we should see him there as well. All right, so we now have our site deployed on the internet. And then if you wanted to add a domain, you could just go to your settings and go to add domain. enter it in, and then you just have to go to your domain registrar and then add a CNAME value. And again, if you've seen my Node dev to deployment course, we did all that, so it's the same exact thing. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now, if you want this to actually go live, you'll have to implement SSL, and you can see right here it says upgrade to paid dynos to configure Heroku SSL. All right, so you definitely want an SSL certificate if you're taking payments. All right, now you don't have to use Heroku. You could use something else, DigitalOcean, or anything else where you can deploy a Node application. All right, this is just one option. And when you're ready to go live, of course, like I showed you earlier, you want to go to your where is it now? I forget. Payments, settings, and activate. Okay, and just go through the application, and I believe you'll get a different set of API keys. You just want to switch those out. All right, and then you should be able to take payments, and it should go into your bank account, and you'll have your payment system. All right, so I know that this was kind of long, guys, and I kind of went off topic a little bit here and there, but hopefully you understand the gist of it. I'll put the code in the description, so you'll have that to look at if you got confused along the way. But thanks for watching, guys. I will have more Stripe API tutorials in the future, including using other languages. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Coding Dojo is a programming school that turns beginners into developers in only 14 weeks. If you're serious about landing a career in tech but lack the formal education or background, Coding Dojo will get you there in no time. With over 3,000 graduates to date, over 90% of their grads land jobs within 3 months of graduating, often making over $70K per year at tech firms of all sizes, from companies like Google to local startups. To learn more, visit codingdojo.com or click the link in the description below.